versus Missouri. Run the ball. That equals winning games. Play good defense. That equals winning games. We're going to go over upon further review. What does this win mean for Alabama? And we're going to talk about telling the truth on Sunday. I appreciate you guys being here. Kyle Anderson, Bama Football on YouTube. Look, while I am excited, I'm elated about getting the W in the SEC against Missouri. I'm going to preference this video by telling you I'm talking about the Alabama Crimson Tide as I would a coach, because I want this team to be hungry. I'm not celebrating anything right now after a victory against Missouri. That is the standard of Alabama football. You had a little bit of a taste of it, okay? Now, can you continue that the rest of the way? You didn't win anything against Missouri yesterday, I promise you. Now, did you get momentum? Yeah, but can you continue to capture that momentum into the back end of the season? Can you continue to have that momentum through a bye week and with LSU coming up? I challenge you guys. You play this in the locker room. Job is not finished. You won nothing yesterday. Nothing. That is the standard of Alabama football. And let's face it, that team that they played yesterday was absolutely depleted. That team was not good. But that doesn't mean that the win wasn't good. There's two different things. Was the win solid? Absolutely. Do you get momentum from a win like that? Absolutely. Was Missouri terrible? Absolutely. But let's walk you through it. I appreciate you guys being here. Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube. Now, when we look at the game stats for this game, I'll let everybody get checked in. Greg, what's up? I appreciate you being a fan funder. And what's going on, Kimberly? I appreciate you being here. Game stats of this game. I made some notes, all right? I'd like to see Alabama getting a balanced approach. And we did see that yesterday. 486 yards, 215 passing, 271 yards rushing. Running the ball, right? It wins games. On the defensive side, you hold them under 100 yards rushing, right? They couldn't pass. They literally played without a quarterback. Penalties, and I think this was the very first game that we saw some penalties in the last few games that were kind of suspicious, right? Like, things didn't really add up. There was some strange officiating in this game. There was a couple plays that, like, I needed help, like, figuring out what had happened. All right. Third down's really good for Alabama's defense, 3 of 13. Not so good for Alabama's offense, which was 2 of 9. Okay. Now, as I get moving within the show, I appreciate you guys. Yeah, I mean, in collectively, Kent, when you look at this team, they are averaging 90 yards of penalties. Now, there was 2 penalties in this game, I will say, that were kind of like, what the hell? That I didn't really agree with. There was a couple ones that I just didn't feel, I would have threw a flag on. A couple of, usually the penalties for Alabama, they make sense. You're like, oh, that was, lack of discipline, whatever. Those particular penalties, I didn't really like them. All right, so when we look to this next graphic, this is probably the biggest graphic of the game, is that the fact that Alabama was able to run the football 37 times for 271 yards. Now, we've been waiting for Alabama to run the football this entire season. It really hasn't been part of their game plan. But when you look to what they did against Missouri, it was very, very effective, okay? So up at the top, you have Justice Haynes, 8 carries for 79 yards. And there were so many people that was questioning his physicality, right? Is this a guy that can run between the tackles? Is this a guy that, kind of happy dances when he gets to the outside? Like, is this the Justice Haynes that we thought he was going to be? Yo, that was absolutely silence yesterday. I just read a comment inside the comment box, not on here, on our YouTube, community channel. Someone went to the game yesterday, and when Justice Haynes put his head down and buried that dude from Missouri, they heard it in the upper deck of Bryant-Denny Stadium. I mean, that just tells you the power, the thunderous clap from Justice Haynes laying the lumber. I thought, honestly, that's my favorite. That's my second favorite play. Maybe my first. The Ryan Williams catch against Georgia is going to be hard to beat, but that one by Justice Haynes, my goodness. And that kind of is reminiscent of Alabama football from the past. And I told everybody, if Kalen DeBoer, because his approval rating is going to be higher than it's ever been right now, because he did 2 things that Alabama football fans are absolutely in love with. Number 1, run the football, right? And number 2, play good defense. When you do that, you make people happy. And you do that, and guess what else you do is you recruit. Those 3 things keep the program going, keep the economy going. Look at people today waking up, singing with the birds, because that's winning football. And that is winning football in the SEC, okay? Yo, Richard Young, my goodness. That guy must be, he must be salivating for opportunities just because we just got a little glimpse of him. And my goodness, I was asking people, who did he remind you of? And inside the comment box, we're talking about Eddie Lacy. Right? You're talking about some big, imposing style backs that can get going. People were mentioning Bo Scarborough, different types of big running backs. I was like, wow, he's off to the races. Guy looks so good. Made that guy miss or, kind of bumbled off him and got going. Jaylen Mio, 11 carries for 50 yards. Jam Miller, I thought he looked really good as well. And it's time. I said, will Jam Miller get the ball 15 times? And I said less. But he still was effective, right? 11 carries, 48. Feed the running backs. Feed them. And I think if you do that, because I think, watching the game last night between LSU and Texas A&M, we're going to talk big picture here in a second. I feel that running the football is going to help Alabama keep time of possession, sustain drives, right? And keep things going. What's up, KJU and Jack Treason? I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much for joining us here on Bama Football on YouTube. Long story short, the running game was effective. Now, up at the top, and we're going to talk about Jaylen Mio here in a second. He was 16 of 26, 215 yards against Missouri. No touchdowns and no interceptions. Completion percentage of 62%. All right. More stats right here. We're talking about the game stats, and we'll continue to go through, navigate the show. Journey Bernard, 5 receptions, 82 yards. He was targeted 6 times. Ryan Williams targeted 8 times. He's been targeted 30 total times in the last 2 games. He has 4 receptions for 53 yards. One of the plays that, there was a couple plays. I think he was overthrown maybe once. There was that play that they had to review. The ball was thrown into the grass. And then that pass that they threw kind of out to him was like a hitch pass or a swing pass or maybe it was kind of like a bubble screen almost. His first step, he is so instinctual with the football. He's so dangerous, right? Get him the football. Another guy that Alabama did getting the football yesterday was Kendrick Law. And this was the first time that we really seen Alabama have Kendrick Law really a part of the game plan. Now, if we go back one slide, we see that Kendrick Law ran the football one time for 21 yards in a play that we are all excited about. And then receiving wise, actually threw to him 2 times for 17 yards. And then of course he had that kind of kick 6. It was a field goal return. I don't even think that's on the stat sheet, but he looks good running the football, right? You get excited about what he brings to the table. More game stats this time on the defensive side of the ball. And the defense, look, they played great against the depleted. And I want to be honest with you, Missouri was not going to score a touchdown yesterday, period, okay? If they would have, it would have been embarrassing because they didn't have a quarterback. And Drew Pine, I'm telling you, he is not, if that's your backup quarterback, Missouri, and they even went to the 3rd string yesterday for just, I think, a series or 2. But with that said, you still have to execute. You still have to put the right players in the right position. You still have to send quarterback pressure. Jahad Campbell, I think it was in the first series of the game, Missouri tries a flea flicker or whatever, and Jahad Campbell comes through the middle of the field, gets a quarterback sack. He has 8 tackles on the day, and I think I saw him pick up a player on offense and absolutely bury him into the ground. So that was kind of I hadn't seen Jahad Campbell play with that much intensity for a while. And he's one of my favorite players, and I think when you look to the NFL draft, he's going to be a player taken, within the top 20 picks. Jahad Campbell brings so much to the table, and to see him playing at that level yesterday was inspiring. Bray Hubbard gets his first start, and you saw he comes up with the interception, has 7 total tackles in this game, which I thought was great. Right place, right time. And what did I say? You can check the receipts of the show. I said Bray Hubbard, he has a nose for the football. He's just where the football's going, that's where Bray Hubbard is. So I'm not surprised to see him second on the team in tackles and coming up with an interception. I'm really not. Made a good play on the ball. We also saw Deontay Lawson, Justin Jefferson. I saw Jefferson in a bunch of times. And how about freshman Justin Okoronkwo coming up with 5 tackles? Freshman Zay Mincy coming up with 4. You know what? I even saw Jay Kirkpatrick out there too, Jr. Jay Kirkpatrick Jr. was out there in the second half. Good to see, some of those younger guys. All right, here's the season stats real quick. I wanted to bring this graphic up for Alabama running the football. I want to see Alabama run the football more down the stretch. I want to see these guys get fed more down the stretch, all right? Jam Miller right now, I circled, he has 74 attempts, and he has a net total of 450. He's averaging 6.1 yards per carry. Keep that. That is a recipe to win these difficult football games down the stretch, okay? You might say difficult. Well, yeah, LSU on the road is going to be very difficult. Going to Oklahoma, I don't care. On the road in the SEC late game, that is going to be Oklahoma Super Bowl. They're going to be fighting backs against the wall. And you know what's coming against Auburn. These guys, they finally got a win. They're probably feeling inspired, right? They still got pride in their performance. So running the football in these critical games in the back end and controlling time of possession is going to lead a way to victory. All right, I circled Justice Haynes, only 55 carries this year, but he's averaging 6.4 and 350. And I get it. Look, Richard Young, this is really surprising to me. He only has 12 carries this year, but he is averaging 7.3. Now, in terms of the speed, the overall speed that he might lack, like what he makes up for that is in power, right? And being able to really put his head down. Like the guy is an absolute beast. So you have 3 running backs that you can really utilize and keep the wear and tear off your quarterback, Jaylen Mio. Jarvis, what's up, man? The early line for Alabama versus LSU it's basically a pick 'em. LSU 1.5 favorite against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Kimberly, what's up? I see you inside the comment box. Good morning, Kevin, Robbie Oots for Heisman, D. Harsh, what's going on? Jack, I appreciate you. Thanks for being here. Jack is asking, do you think Alabama sneaks into the top 12 by the end of the year? That's a really good question, and I think the way that the committee is going to view Alabama is a couple things. Number one, they're going to view Alabama how they lost, right? How did they lose? And the way that they lost was to Vanderbilt. They got out coached in that game, and they didn't play their best football against Tennessee, right? There was a million different reasons why they lost that game to Tennessee. But what the committee is going to also look at is where does this team finish in SEC play, and how did this team finish out after they took one on the chin, right, in Knoxville? And when you start to take a big step forward, like a victory over Missouri, a depleted Missouri, yes, we all understand that, but you still have to execute. And how do you play against LSU on the road? How do you play? So if you continue to play 4 quarters of sustaining football and you finish out the season 10-2, and I know it's only a 1-game season because every single game back against the wall, I think you do move up. It's going to be hard, to leave a 10-2 Alabama team out if they have played much better from that point on, and they do have a win against Georgia. Now, they get into a shootout with one of these teams, they trail, they don't play complete football. I would think that their chances are very slim. They actually have a 53% chance, I checked the ESPN playoff predictor, to make the playoffs. We all know it's a 1-game season every single day, backs against the wall. What's up, man? Chance, I'll check out the comment. I appreciate you being here, man. Thank you so much. I'm kind of just flying through some of this, and then we'll have some open dialogue before I bounce out. Okay, so look, on Jaylen Mio, this is Tell the Truth Sunday, all right? Now, in terms of the accuracy, we're seeing continued issues from Jaylen Mio. It hasn't been the same. So what I did is when I talk about items, players, whatever it is, specifically the quarterback position, I always like to have data backing me up, right? And I always like to have you guys, your input on the show, talking about, what is specifically happening. So what I did was I drew a box around these last 3 games, and we've seen Jaylen Mio's accuracy continue to go the opposite direction, right? Kind of stay in that 60% region, right? 69 against South Carolina, 55 against Tennessee, yesterday against Missouri, 61.5. Now Missouri's defense was ranked number 9 in the country. Tennessee's was ranked number 2. Okay. But we are seeing a couple different stats that are leading to inaccuracies. Like he just hasn't been accurate. He's been missing wide receivers. We can talk about the receivers that he missed against South Carolina. We can talk about the receivers that he missed against Tennessee. And we can talk about receivers that he missed against Missouri yesterday. There was a wide open Ryan Williams. He overthrew Kobe Prentice. There was times where he continues to show that he is inaccurate. Look, this is Coach Kalen DeBoer's team. We've talked about should there be a different quarterback, this and that. Clearly, there's not going to be. So we have to look at the stats that are in front of us. He's also been sacked 2 times. Yesterday, you're not getting a lot of help from the right tackle or the left tackle. He was sacked twice. A lot of people could say, hey, that goes on Milroe staying in the pocket. Probably so. Milroe still is, utilizing his legs to run a lot. He ran the ball yesterday 11 times. He escaped the pocket, ran right up the middle for like a 40-yard gain. Let me ask you right now, Like, which way is Jaylen Mio progressing or trending? Is he getting better or is he getting worse? Over the even if you take the last 4 games or since Georgia, is he getting better or worse? Or is he staying the same? That's the other option. And that's kind of tell the truth Sunday. I know it's hard to swallow because he's a quarterback that continues to win games. I am one of his biggest supporters as well, right? And it's hard. It's hard to talk about the quarterback position here at Alabama because the guy wins games and, the numbers still aren't there. And there's a lot of fans that are upset with his play, but he wins games. And it's tough to answer. I get it, man. I would say that he is not trending the right way right now. And that's it. And where's Austin Mack? Has anyone that's gone to the games or done it, has anybody seen Austin Mack? Like, is he even warming up? I have to ask. See, and that's the thing, Jarvis. I think you're right, man. There's not much improvement, but he's our best option for this season. Coach Kalen DeBoer's job is to win games. And I know there was the rumor going into this game that he was injured. Well, Jaylen Mio clearly isn't injured. We saw a little bit of Ty Simpson. He didn't even throw the ball last night. Cool. Thanks, J-Beck. I appreciate it, man. So Austin Mack just kind of way in the back. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So I don't know, man. The dude is absolutely tall, right? He's like, someone told me that Austin Mack's closer to like 6'8". So that's the thing with Jaylen Mio. And I know it's like tell the truth Sunday, and it's a difficult thing to talk about because we like the personality and the person that he is and what he's done and what he continues to do for Alabama. He's a captain. But in terms of like right now, man, like this is it's tough because we don't see progression. And that's why I spotlighted those last 3 games. Look at that compared to the games before that. Look at against Wisconsin, Georgia, and Vanderbilt. Now, are you playing better defenses? Probably. Grim, what's up, man? I see you inside the comment box. He's saying, to be fair, Ryan Williams' miss was because he didn't finish his route. Yeah, I did see Coach Kalen DeBoer kind of animated about that. So those are also things that go into it as well. Yeah, good point out. I appreciate it. So that's on Jaylen Mio. Here we go. We got upon further review. I like to do this every Sunday. Look, great win at the right time, but Missouri was terrible. All right. And I know I'm not going to be like doom and gloom, be like, man, that wasn't anything, because it did mean something. It really did. But if I'm being like a coach, I'm like, okay, next game mentality, because you didn't win anything against Missouri, but you did get a lot of momentum, and it came at the right time because this team needed momentum. This team, I would say, and I think the way that the fans are viewing this team, I could even see it on the views of the shows. Like, people will like kind of have like a disinterest because they're anxious about how the games are going to happen, right? So in terms of momentum for the overall team and how they played, you know which play gave them a lot of momentum yesterday? 2 plays. I call these like momentum changers, right? Justice Haynes, when he buried that dude into the dirt, and then the 4th down stop by the second team defense, right in the goal line. The 4th and 1, trying to get into the end zone, and the second team defense comes with it. Like, those are momentum boosters for this team. I saw the team jumping, excited, and they have every single right to be, because this season is an absolute grind. I don't think in that moment that the players are celebrating like, this monumental win over a depleted Missouri team. I think they're excited because they can feel that momentum, and whether you can block out the noise or you can't, it's going to seep in. So that win comes at a really good time, and the best thing about this is because they have a bye week now, right? So you can take that momentum, kind of shift it in to a very good week of rest and preparation for LSU. I love it. Bama Mike is saying that our fan base by far is the most negative towards our own program. Just facts. I think about that, And I think it's because I think people have a lot of emotion clearly because standards are so high here and they should remain high here. Like yesterday, that's why I was saying this in the beginning of the show. That's why the standard, like yesterday, what you had was a little bit of the taste of the standard. The standard is dominating defense and a dominating run game and dominating your opponents for 4 quarters and making your ass quit. Eli Drinkwitz, a coach that I think is on the rise, that guy was emotionally wrecked. Him yelling at the players, him yelling at the officials, like that is the standard, making other teams so uncomfortable that they want to get the hell out of Bryant-Denny Stadium. So you got a little bit of a taste of it. Now, can you continue to capitalize on the momentum the rest of the season? Can you retain that hunger the rest of the season? That is the challenge, because yesterday, besides getting momentum, you didn't win anything. I'm about to show you where Alabama still is in the SEC standings, all right? So great win, dominating performance. It doesn't matter the team we played. It matters the scoreboard and overall the offense, the defense, and you know what? Great job on special teams, too, because one guy that I've been a little bit nervous about has been Graham Nicholson, the guy, the field goal kicker, but he came with it, all right? And he hit 2 really good field goals at the right time. There's a couple other things where it probably wasn't an A-plus performance because there was the Jaylen Mio kind of bobble or whatever. And then you had some other weird things happen on special teams. But in terms of, like, the execution for just looking at – I'm not even looking at Missouri. I'm looking at Alabama. They played really good football. We talked about Milroe still seemed to be inaccurate at times. We spent a little bit of time talking about this. How about this next point? I swear I saw Coach Kalen DeBoer with a play sheet. And I'm sure he has a play sheet, and because he's listening. But it seemed like he started. There's a rumor that's saying that he was calling the plays, and I've seen this happen before. When the defense played well, Coach Saban was calling the defense. And now, because Coach Kalen DeBoer is an offensive guy, are we going to the same thing? Nick Sheridan's calling the plays, and now Kalen DeBoer is. It looked like somebody said Coach Kalen DeBoer is calling the plays. And then they panned to the TV screen, and I saw Coach Kalen DeBoer with like a play sheet. But something happened in the middle of the second quarter. This team started playing like really good on offense. Because the first 3 drives were crap. And as I said at the beginning, look, running the ball is key to future success. And I'm not saying overall throughout the course of life. I'm saying with this team and this defense in the secondary that's depleted, and it's not an A-plus secondary. We know that. And LSU knows that. So run the ball and keep that offense off the field. You have the running backs to do it. Robbie Oots for Heisman. Oh, yeah, that was you inside that said about don't think it's fake news that Kalen DeBoer. Yeah, we saw that. And it was good to see Coach Kalen DeBoer get fired up. He was riding on Rock Montgomery. You see that? He was fired up. On Kendrick Law, Graham Nicholson, and Bray Hubbard. All right, first on Kendrick Law. Said this at the beginning of the show. I like the way that they added him into the game plan. They wanted to get him the football by way of a run, by way of a couple targets. He's a quality player, and I get it. There's a lot of mouths to be fed on this team that are ultra dynamic in the offense. I think he could be a great complement to Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams, number 1, Jeremy Bernard, number 2. You could circulate your number 3s, but Kendrick Law is a great player to have in the fold. Good to see that. Graham Nicholson, it was good to see him kick 2 solid field goals. I've been a little bit suspicious about his game plan, but yesterday, a 47-yarder, 37-yarder looked good to me. Bray Hubbard, look, we circled this guy. You know what I didn't see, and I'm not looking at Missouri. I'm looking at Alabama's secondary. You know this, because we talk about it every single day. The way to challenge Alabama's defense is to go deep on them. Well, I saw Xavier Brown play some great defense in man coverage. I saw Malachi Moore play some really great defense in man-to-man coverage as well. So how did Alabama play in those opportunities? They played really well. And you know who was throwing those passes? It was Brady Cook. It wasn't their backup Drew Pine. It was the first team quarterback that was challenging them deep. And they didn't get it done because the secondary players were in the right position and then played really good defense in those particular plays. Now, can you do that in this next game against LSU, who has much more talented wide receivers and a much more talented quarterback. That is a challenge, and we all know that. And like I said, that fourth down stop, that was dope. Not because of who it was against, because the players had the right psychological disposition to keep in the right mental state on 4th and 1. Man, XXDP, thank you so much for bringing up LT Overton's name. It's one of the names that I didn't have listed, and that's my fault. That guy was playing with the absolute motor on his ass. Excuse my language. But that guy, LT Overton, was pissed off for greatness yesterday. I'm serious. LT Overton, thank you, XX, for bringing that up, man. I saw him. He was flying around the edge. Number 22. If you go back and do your rewatch, LT Overton, man, he was mad. He was flying around. He was playing inspired football. Jahad Campbell was playing inspired football. So that's what I'm saying. That was a taste of the standard of Alabama football. I'm curious to see, the bigger guys with platforms, guys who played for Alabama, guys who played for Coach Saban, if they saw a little bit of that standard too. Now, it's just a taste. It's just a little drink. But I'm glad to see that is in them. It's just not a one-game season. But I think we did see that. Guys were playing inspired yesterday. And that's why you kind of capitalize from the momentum, go into the open week. In Alabama, you know what's going to happen? They're going to get a lot of momentum from this game. Because I think the casual fan base doesn't really know that Missouri was depleted. And they're going to see things just from the score, which is fine. Big Chevy talking about James Smith. Yeah, Jarvis says that Alabama had 7 penalties for 85 yards. Yeah, there was 2 penalties, and usually the penalties have been – I really haven't been complaining. The penalties have been on Alabama. There was 2 penalties yesterday, I think for 30 yards, that I think the officials screwed up on. There were some weird calls yesterday. I didn't even know what was going on. I wear the headset. It was weird. KTK brings up a really good point, too. And I think that was kind of part of the standard is you stopped the glitz and glamour and got dirty and got down to business. That could have been it, too. Jeremiah Taylor, I 100% agree, man. Jahad Campbell, that first sack, I was like, oof. So him and LT definitely flying around. So it's good to, highlight and see that defense. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, so the remaining schedule for the Alabama Crimson Tide looks like this. After a 34-0 victory over Missouri, you got this open week, which I think is great, right? You heal up whoever. We don't have an update on Cole Adams yet, who went down with the lower leg. The guy has been absolutely battled this year. Poor dude. He has that robotic arm. What a tough dude. They're open for the first weekend in November, and then this is their schedule on the back end. It's a one-game season. And look, back is against the wall. Back is against the wall. We know that. At LSU, they're not going to be ranked number 8 anymore because they just lost to Texas A&M in a game that they were winning, I think, at halftime. It's still going to be challenging. All right. Then you got Mercer. And then you got another road game against Oklahoma. So November's going to be a great time. If things are tightening up right now, perfect time. In Kristen, New Jersey, I think you're right, man. I mean, if this team finishes off playing convincing football for 4 quarters and they finish out 10-2, let the chips fall where they may. I think it's going to be very difficult to leave this team out. You got the great win over Georgia. Kind of have to root for Georgia, right? And I think now the college football world is starting to understand how hard Vanderbilt hits, right? Vanderbilt, took Texas down to the wire yesterday. Well, before we look at this, let's look at the SEC standings as of today. So here's the SEC standings as of today. So you have Texas A&M, man. Elko just absolutely putting together a great initial season, right, for Texas A&M. 5-0 in SEC play, 7-1 overall, 4-1 at home. You know what this is going to do? This is going to also propel Notre Dame because Notre Dame beat Navy. So I would imagine Notre Dame keeps climbing up in the rankings as well. Because now Notre Dame can say, well, we have a win over the SEC number 1, right? Georgia right now, 4-1. They're open, 6-1 overall. You have LSU who dropped a game, and you have Tennessee, and you have Texas and Alabama. Look at these teams in the SEC. This is crazy. And look at the coaches. Elko, Smart, Brian Kelly, Josh Heupel, Steve Sarkisian, Kalen DeBoer. Yo, this is like the Premier League in soccer. Yo, winning the SEC, and I don't even know if you want to play for the championship game in the SEC. That's just like another gauntlet game that you have to get ready for, another battle that you have to get ready for, right? Here's a look at how the rest of the SEC teams up at the top and their remaining opponents. All right, so Texas A&M, they have South Carolina, Auburn, Texas. You got to think, I mean, South Carolina could be tricky. We know, I mean, those guys are pretty good. So, but 2 road games. Hugh Freeze, who knows? Texas, I mean, you got to think right now, Texas A&M increased their chances of getting to the SEC championship game, right? Georgia, Florida, Ole Miss, Tennessee. These are some challenging games for Georgia, right? At Ole Miss, that's going to be an interesting one. I wonder what happens if if Georgia loses to Ole Miss because they have the loss to Alabama, and if Alabama keeps winning, they would go behind Alabama, right? That's going to be crazy to follow. And then Texas, you got Billy Napier, Sam Pittman, right? Stoops, and you got Elko. Does anybody think that Florida loses any of these other games on the back end? I mean, anything could happen, right? Right? Jarvis, you're talking about the Georgia one? What if Georgia loses and Texas loses, right? Like, what if Texas loses and then Bama keeps winning? I guess that's how you have to look at it, but then you have to look at what Tennessee's doing too. And I get it. There's all sorts of like scenarios to look at. But Tennessee, that win over Bama, man, that was huge for them. They still got to beat Vandy, which is going to be tough. They could theoretically, if they lose to Vandy and Georgia, then they have 3 losses. Right? And then Bama moves up. LSU, Bama beats LSU, Bama moves up. Texas loses somewhere around the road. I don't know. They're tied with Bama, but they too haven't played. And then you go to the common opponents, and Alabama beat Georgia, who beat Texas, so Alabama would go ahead of Texas. I don't know. You just keep winning. And yeah, Alabama does need help, but here's the big thing. So go around when you watch your other shows and other sites and talk on your message boards. Remember this one. If Georgia, Texas, and Alabama are somehow tied, right? This is interesting what I'm about to say. If Georgia, Texas, and Alabama have the same record at the end of the season, Alabama's on top of those 2 teams. You're like, why? Well, Texas and Alabama didn't play. Well, part of the SEC rules is that it goes down to common opponents that you played within conference play. And since Alabama beat Georgia and Georgia beat Texas, Alabama would be on top. So there you go. So if you're an Alabama fan, you have to hope that Georgia somehow, slips up, which I mean, they could. Ole Miss and Tennessee, I mean, slight chances, but still. In Texas, I don't know. I mean, the SEC is crazy. But that's just something to think about as you go forward. Him is saying, but Texas beat Vandy, who we lost to. Yeah, that's also in there. Yeah, so there's a lot of key elements to go over. I'm kind of recapping, went over the game stats against Missouri, talked about running the ball, right? Man, Vandy and Tennessee, the outcomes are crazy. You need a lot of work. Just keep winning. Running the ball wins games, right? Play good defense, it wins games. We went over upon further review, and what does this win do for Bama? So, no, actually, what did I do? I watched the Texas and LSU game, a little bit of the World Series, and we watched a movie last night. Some weird M. Night Shyamalan movie. I don't even know what it was. After Signs and The Sixth Sense. Well, yeah, I guess The Village was okay, but some of those other movies have just been too weird. This one last night, the guy goes to like a Taylor Swift I forget the name. Don't watch it. It wasn't good. But I appreciate you guys for being here this morning on my Sunday show. I'm just like you. I'm doing the same thing on Sunday. Consistency and performance. So groceries, chores, tightening up the lawn. We got Halloween coming up. I wanted to bring this to your attention too, for those of you on the back end. My grandfather is really sick back in New Mexico. So, in fact, they read him his last rites a couple nights ago. So he's, hanging on there. And I appreciate your thoughts and prayers. And usually outside of my kids, I pretty much, keep things to myself in terms of my family stuff. So I'm thinking about, since Alabama does have the open week, I might go back to New Mexico. It would be Clayton, New Mexico. You can look that up on your free time. It's up in the Northeast. It's a little ranching town up in Northeast New Mexico. I'd actually fly into Amarillo, Texas, and then drive over to Clayton. So depending on, how things shake out, I might be headed that way. But I'll keep you posted. And I might, if I was gone, I would be gone from like Thursday to maybe Friday to, it'd be a quick trip. So I'll keep you guys posted inside the community tab. But I appreciate you guys. Just want to give you the heads up because, we've had, I don't know if you guys have been tracking, but we've had a daily show every single morning on here since, I don't know, February, January, something like that. So appreciate you guys being here. I love you guys. Remember, our show's on Apple and Spotify as well. News as it happens. I'll probably post a shorter video talking about the updated AP Top 25. And I'm working on a small video that I might post regarding Justice Haynes. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much for being here. Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube. Thank you. Enjoy your Sunday, and I'll catch up with you soon right here on Bama Football.